I see what you mean about glitchy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you and everybody else can hear you, but they just can't see you right now there, Jerry.
This is very bizarre. As I understand, I guess YouTube has had problems today with video upstreaming.
Yeah, well, we can hear you just fine, Jerry. Bessie
Well,
says she can hear you too.
hey, Pegleg, thank you. I'm glad that you can hear me also. I'm going to let's see here. I'm not quite sure what to do. I restarted my camera, and for our viewing audience, this is not a bit. I'm not sure what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I swear I did not cause this. I set nothing on fire today or 150 years ago in order to cause this glitch on this, what do you call it, use tube?
Yeah, it's the YouTube. It's the on the interwebs.
I do know that
It's a series
there
of
are.
tubes.
Yes, it's a series of tubes. For some reason, I think there's more ghosts floating around this month than last month, and so we might be seeing more of them coming on Friday.
There must be. I'm going to try something else here. Okay, so it's not even taking my OBS. That's very peculiar. How about now? This
Have
is
you tried hitting your camera with the hammer?
no, I'm not going to do that. It's an expensive DSLR. Although I know that, on some occasions that would work. That's not something I want to try right now. Let's try something else here. That doesn't work. Camlink doesn't work. This is really upsetting. I had a really great intro to go through, and I'm gonna try something else here, guys. I'm gonna disconnect and reconnect. So, Pegleg, you watch the store until I see if this works.
I will happily watch the Chicago Corner channel for you, Jerry.
Thank you. I'm gonna take myself off.
Thank you for joining us today on Tuesday, October 26th, for the best intro to Chicago Corner yet, featuring me, the ghost of Pegleg Sullivan, who did absolutely not set any fires 150 years ago to burn down a good portion of this fair city of Chicago. Now, I might be telling you the real story about that this coming Friday night at 7:30 p.m. Central, when we feature a whole host of ghost stories coming soon to a stream near you, as long as the ghosts decide to let us stream. Jerry will return shortly, but until then, we can talk about, what do we want to talk about? Well, let's see what the people in the chat want to talk about. Well, we got one person putting alligator emojis in there. Alligators are nice. They do not like fires. I learned that one the hard way. And Arturo said it's Jerry time. Well, it is technically Jerry time. I don't know which time zone, but we are waiting patiently for his return. We got Love Tagori in the chat, and hello to you. I see someone named Little says I am doing it live. Well, I am doing it ghost, but that's close enough. And there we got TrueDemocracyNow.org, who said that YouTube did not stream the Patreon show earlier for Hardlands Media. Yes, we know. They had to go over to that other Odyssey thing to make that happen. And as we can see, it appears that the YouTube is still having difficulties today. Oh, Arturo is asking a wonderful question. Pegleg, what did you use to start the fire? I did not. I repeat, and my lawyer tells me I should not even talk about this. I did not start the Great Chicago Fire. A Great Chicago Fire did happen in my vicinity. I was not responsible. Bessie is the family cow, She is a chocolate milk cow. Yes, the first of her kind. And I don't want to hear anything from anyone telling me that chocolate cows do not exist. Bessie is a chocolate cow. See, she agrees with me. So while we wait for Jerry to return, perhaps we can talk about the stories that are coming up on the rest of the episode of Chicago Corner. What do we have coming up here? We're going to be talking about the post office and some nutty guy from the Chicago Police Union. And it looks like we're going to be talking about some guy who had a machine gun? What? This is crazy. We got all these stories coming up if you stick around, but we are going to go back into the chat while Jerry figures out why his camera is not working. Love Tagori says the cow sounds sick. Yes, she's like totally like the colloquial modern version of the term sick, like as in awesome. Oh, let's pretend Chicago Corner is a radio show. That's kind of what we're doing right now, Art. Didn't you start the not so great Chicago? Why do people keep asking that? Oh, hey, there's a Jerry. Can we hear a Jerry? Is your mic working, Jerry? We can't hear you yet.
Testes. 1, 2.
Oh, yes,
3.
we can hear you now.
Okay, so all I can figure out on this end, and I don't want to place blame, but it appears that the cable going into my camera, my SLR camera, this expensive Lumix H4 camera, is not sending a signal, and it seems to be a little bit loose, which makes me wonder if little Oreo decided to gnaw on it while I wasn't around. Well, I got to get a cable. But in the meantime, I can still do the show this way, and hopefully, let me see if I can still share the video screen regarding stories. Yeah, I can still share our stories. So sorry, everybody, you won't be able to see me. You won't be able to see me live or Peg Leg live, but we can still talk about the stories tonight. And I apologize for these technical difficulties. I really hate when this kind of stuff happens.
Oh, that's okay. We were having a really great time in the chat there talking about how I did not set a fire 150 years ago to burn down half the city. That did not happen. It wasn't me. My lawyer tells me I should tell nobody about anything having to do with flames or fire. And I will go into more detail on Friday when I return with Bessie to talk about chocolate milk futures. No, wait.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up Friday, because I was at the top of the show. I was going to share this, with live video. However, I did want to let everybody know that in addition to some special guests along with Peg Leg, we are going to be having 2 guests join us from the Chicago Paranormal Tour. So we've got Matt Perry and we've got David Olson. I believe David is a Chicago police officer and David is a Chicago firefighter. And they both are involved in the Chicago Paranormal Investigative Tours. So I asked them if they'd like to join us this Friday to talk about some of our stories. And thankfully, they will be joining us for what I'm hoping will be a little bit more of a serious spin on paranormal activities here in Chicago. And then we will have our special guests on afterwards to talk about Chicago legends like Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, Resurrection Mary.
Oh, yeah, I know her.
You know her? Yeah, I've heard that you guys know each other. I don't know if I want to know how intimate you guys know each other, but
we're just friends. That girl likes to dance, I tell you.
She friend zoned you?
It's more complicated. I'm 170 something years old, so
well, she's probably not that far off in age from you.
Yeah,
Peg
but
leg.
it's more like we're kind of wing persons with each other when we do hang out, because she likes to dance and I like to drink beverages, and so sometimes we do both.
Well, we're hoping to have Resurrection Mary on the show with us also. So that's kind of been spoiled. But I can't promise. We're waiting on a confirmation of that. But we're going to
Yeah,
have a great
you
haunted
never
Halloween
know.
show.
She'll like say, "Oh yeah, I want to go and be at this place," and then you find out she's dancing the night away somewhere else. It's it's hit or miss with that girl, I tell you.
Yeah, no pun intended. Since wasn't she struck by a vehicle outside of
Oh
Resurrections?
my goodness, I
Oh, peg
really
leg.
shouldn't have said that.
I see what you did there. All right. Well, listen, that's what's coming up on the Friday show. Kid Cabela will also be joining us as we speak with our paranormal investigators, talking about current paranormal activities in Chicago, as well as the legends we're going to talk about. Pegleg, do you want to stick around for some of these stories, or should I?
I'm going to duck out for a bit, but I might come back a little bit later. I'll let you get rolling with this thing because we've been winging it for about 20 minutes now.
I know, yeah, and we've got some good stories to cover. So thanks for covering for me. And if you want to jump in later, just let me know.
Happy to be here. Everybody, chocolate milk cows, they exist and they are delicious.
All right. Thank you, Pegleg. So, one other update I wanted to give everybody at the top of the show. As you've probably followed in the past, we have been covering the Chicago 48-hour film project, and they are having their live screenings this Thursday at the Harper Theater in Hyde Park near the University of Chicago. So I believe that the screenings begin at 6:00 p.m. Actually, I'm going to see if I can get the screen up here for the 48-hour film project so you guys can have those details. You can hear me typing diligently on this end. There we go. And let me see if I can click the link up so we can put it up on screen here. Let's see. Here we go. Stand by. All of these technical challenges tonight. I'm not used to this. I like things running more smoothly. But 48-hour film Chicago Awards 2021. Oh gosh, I can't seem to. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. All right. So here's how you can all attend the awards if you want to find something really fun to go out to this Thursday night. You can get your tickets through Eventive, and I'm going to pull that link up right now. Have something to show you besides my little portrait there. God, this is like disconcerting. All right. There we go. So this Thursday, October 28th at 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. 6 p.m. they're going to have the regular screenings of each of the 4 screening groups. And then at 8 o'clock is the big awards show. So if you want to see the films that our Chicago filmmakers made within 48 hours, I believe it was the weekend of October 2nd, check it out this Thursday, October 28th at the Harper Theater down on the South Side in Hyde Park. Those are the proud sponsors for the event. You want to see some great filmmakers work here in Chicago, our emerging filmmakers as well as established filmmakers. I would encourage you all to seek that out. You can find the event on Eventbrite, Chicago 48-Hour Film Project Best of Awards. That is this Thursday. Now, moving on to our first story. How many of you here in Chicago have had issues with the Chicago Postal Service? I don't think that this is specifically limited to the pandemic. I think we've all read stories of that character Tom DeJoy, who was appointed by Donald Trump as the Postmaster General during the Trump administration, whose real goal was to dismantle the United States Postal Service so that they could focus more on privatizing it so that they can enrich their cronies. This guy's reign of terror over the Postal Service and I think budgetary cuts has probably led to a lot of the problems that we're having with postal delivery here in Chicago. I came across this on Reddit, but there's a deeper story to this also, because I've encountered this more times than I am comfortable with or think should happen. Postal deliveries, that you look at the delivery tracking and it shows that the package was delivered and it wasn't. And you don't know if your package was stolen from your residence or if it's coming late or if it's lost in the system, because delivery tracking, which is supposed to be reliable, isn't. Well, guess what? Now, this is a story from last year, but it also relates to what we're going to be talking about with the Chicago Postal Service delivery issues. This is what's at the heart of the problem. And this comes to us from the Washington Post. Postal workers are falsifying data, records show. Workers say it's to boost on-time delivery statistics. Across the country, postal workers mark packages still sitting in the post office as delivered. Now, this is from October 15th of 2020, so this article is a year old, and nothing has changed, despite, I'm sure, many postal customers complaining not only to their local postal branches, but to their elected representatives, because the elected representatives also supervise what's going in the postal service system and file complaints with the local postmasters, asking them what the hell's going on. So, U.S. Postal Service employees and supervisors have routinely falsified data on package deliveries, likely so they are not penalized for tardiness, according to postal workers and internal data obtained by the Washington Post. And the practice appears to have intensified as Americans ordered more items online during the coronavirus pandemic. A Washington Post examination of Postal Service data and interviews with nearly a dozen current and former employees showed that workers scanned millions of packages with incorrect delivery designation codes, claiming that a customer's driveway was blocked or that the recipient was not home, for example, when in fact the package never left the post office. The problematic scans are among several practices that have drawn attention recently as the Postal Service grapples with cost-cutting measures introduced by Postmaster General Louis DeJoy and prepares for an unprecedented flood of mail-in ballots for the November election. Now, remember, this was a year old, the reporting on this, but it's still going on. DeJoy's policies, some of which have been halted by federal judges, have been cited by independent experts and Democrats in Congress, causing a widespread delay in first-class deliveries. The Post reported in August that customers nationwide were being erroneously notified that their packages had been held at the post office at their own request. This has happened to me. I tracked something that said I went and picked it up, and this was like the same night that it arrived in Chicago in the evening. I saw this the next day. I'm like, I didn't go to the post office and pick this up last night. Took another 3 days for the package to get to me because they falsified the delivery information to keep up with metrics. Newly obtained data and interviews with 2 former postal executives and 9 current postal workers shows that the false codes are far more varied and extensive and suggest that they are meant to boost the agency's performance metrics. Postal workers said in interviews that they have been pressured by their bosses to perform false scans increasingly over the past 6 months so that the late packages appear to have been delivered or are delayed because of issues at the delivery address to ensure that they don't count against the agency's delivery statistics. They don't care as long as there's a scan on it because it doesn't count as a failure. But it is a failure, said one mail carrier in Massachusetts, who, like others interviewed, spoke on the condition of anonymity to avoid retribution. Of course he did. If I had $1, I would bet you $1 that it's not just my office, that the scan doesn't get recorded when Congress says, I want to see your delivery metrics. Postal Service spokesperson David Partenheimer said in a statement that the agency maintains end-to-end visibility of its packages as they are accepted, processed, and delivered, and that it takes improper package processing very seriously. That was a statement a year ago. Apparently not as seriously as we would hope, right? We're committed to making sure all packages are properly delivered for our customers. Partenheimer wrote, we're proud of our work our employees play in processing, transporting, and delivering mail and packages for the American public during these challenging times. We provide a vital public service that is a part of this nation's critical infrastructure. The Postal Service has struggled to provide reliable delivery as package volumes are skyrocketing and the amount of paper mail is falling, making package delivery ever more crucial to the agency's survival. The increase in packages has boosted revenue, but created logistical headaches for an agency designed to move predominantly paper, not boxes. Meanwhile, Amazon, FedEx, and UPS are investing heavily to expand their own distribution networks in the hopes of one day bypassing the Postal Service, which they use for last mile delivery. Amazon founder and chief executive Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. So I've had this happen also where FedEx or DHL or UPS will pass one of their packages that you've paid a premium on to the Postal Service for last mile delivery so they don't have to do the last mile. And it gets lost and takes another 2 to 3 days, which isn't the service you paid for. So now going back to what's happening in Chicago. This is what I found on Reddit. And I want to quote from this particular user from Wicker Park. Has anyone else been having worse than normal experiences with their local post office delivering mail? I live in an apartment building in Wicker Park, and they really seem to be struggling around here. Now, this was posted 23 hours ago. There are probably 30 or so units in my building. In the past few weeks, there have been multiple instances of the mailman simply tossing all the mail on the shelf in the mailroom instead of putting everyone's letters, bills, etc. in their respective mailbox. I'm talking just a giant pile of everyone's mail on a shelf haphazardly thrown on there. In addition, they completely skip our building some days, today being the latest example. I later checked the tracking number of my packages that was quote unquote out for delivery and noticed they put in their system that they were unable to access the building when they really just never showed up. Packages being delivered by USPS are completely hit or miss. I've had a much higher than usual number of packages be marked delivered that weren't actually delivered. They either never show up or show up a few weeks after being marked delivered. Anyone else been seeing stuff like this? I know the post office in Chicago is always hit or miss, but it feels way more rampant and frequent lately. Yeah, a lot of people had a lot of experience to share in this Reddit group. And I want to say for the record, I live up in Westridge, and my post office is Northtown Station. And I'm pretty much convinced that Northtown Station is the 10th level of hell. Their postal employees are rude. They are surly. You can do all the work for them, getting a label created and on your package. So all you need to do is drop it off at the counter for a scan receipt so that you have proof that you dropped it off. And they won't accept it. They want to make you go over to the machine to scan it and put it in the box, which my contention is the reason they do that, and they don't want to accept pre-labeled packages at the counter because of quote unquote COVID, is if you put it in the box, they can get around to taking it and delivering it whenever they want. The purpose of getting an acceptance receipt from a postal employee proves that you gave it to a postal employee and it shouldn't be lost in case it is lost or you have to file an insurance claim. And I unequivocally, I'm not making anything up. Northtown Station agents will routinely, when I go in, not allow you to get a receipt at the counter for something that you've pre-labeled and that you hand over to them, which should take all of 5 seconds to do. All they want to do is process people who haven't had labels made and give them receipts and spend 15 minutes doing that while COVID apparently doesn't factor into it, as opposed to you handing them something that's prepackaged. It's ridiculous. I have contacted my local representative here in my district, Jan Schakowsky, and had numerous communications with her office reporting this. And I've also had communication with the Postmaster General, who recently transitioned. I believe it was maybe 5 months ago. I think Wanda Prater was the original postmaster, and it was pretty much a shit show under her. And the new postmaster is Eddie Morgan. And I actually got an email from Eddie Morgan once apologizing for what was going to happen, what has been happening up here in Westridge at Northtown Station, promising it would never happen again. And it does. You can see the email addresses for the postmaster for Chicago, Eddie C. Morgan at USPS.gov. And if you want to specifically complain about mail delivery within your district, which I think you should, I think this is ridiculous. I used to have a lot of respect for the Postal Service. I used to be a big supporter of them when people were looking to privatize the Postal Service. It's probably not all of the Postal Service employees' fault when there are budget cuts and you've got to enjoy dismantling the system, but that doesn't make any kind of excuse for the horrible service that you get at the counters and the surly attitudes that a lot of these clerks have when all you want to do is make sure your property is getting to where it's supposed to go to, or is being delivered to you with proper tracking so you know it hasn't been lost or missing. So that just kind of struck me since I was browsing Reddit and came across this particular thread on postal deliveries, and I was reminded of that article from the Washington Post last year. Nothing has changed for the past year. Let's go into the live chat and get some of your comments, since I'd love to see what some of you think about this. Scrolling back, let's see here. Andrew Golick, this goes right back to everyone having a metrics mindset. Yep. And it's all about the metrics, not about the actual service and quality. They care more about having their numbers than they do about quality. Hey, KRTD Media, nice to see you. KRTD Media is doing a protest outside of Netflix November 2nd against the smear documentary on Julian Assange. And I'm very excited and happy to see that they are spearheading that effort in New York City. Watch social media for that November 2nd. And I believe I'll be on KRTD Media the first Friday of November as their guest host on their Friday night show after Chicago Corner. Andrew Golick, oh yeah, I had that problem happen when I had a package from the post office. They never attempted delivery sometimes, and I ended up calling my local post office to intercept to pick up. Yep, that's what they do. It's not just me. It's not just these people on Reddit. I've been saying for a while that metrics is a problem for a while. Metrics does not enforce correctness, accuracy, satisfaction. It just allows numbers to be documented regardless of the accuracy. Right. To protect jobs and to protect either incompetence or outright neglect. Turkey Day says postal funding in the USA isn't really at the same critical infrastructure funding to same in, say, Scotland, is it? Oh yeah, definitely with that FedEx Smart Post and UPS SurePost when they do those last mile deliveries to the post office so they can get lost. I have an online business, and after all this stuff started happening and I couldn't take my package. First of all, you stand in line at the post office for literally 20 minutes to a half an hour, and they'll have two clerks at the counter, taking about 10 minutes per customer. Then when they said, sorry, you can't drop off your packages because they're pre-labeled, me standing there on my crutches and one leg, I'm like, fuck this, not going to do it. Willing to pay a few bucks extra for UPS where I go in and they've got all four counters manned. It literally takes me a minute to drop my stuff off at the counter and get out of there. Cordial, respectful. I can't say enough about UPS, and I wish I could say as much about USPS, but constant complaints, constant pleadings, either through our elected Congress people or the postmasters themselves, is just not doing anything. Bezos or U.S. government need to develop transporter technology to better delivery services. It's a joke, but also a good idea. Yeah. Over here at Mount Prospect, I've seen people drop off pre-labeled packages without receipts at our post office. So Andrew Golick, I'm curious to know if they actually request the receipt and I refuse them, or if they just leave them at the counter, at which point the clerks can just put them in a pile and process them when they get to them instead of actually meet the 2 or 3 day priority delivery metrics or promises. Let's see here.
I tell you, Jerry, I had my own problems with shipping too. I mean, none of the shipping services, not even USPS, would let me ship the chocolate milk. So I'm developing a chocolate milk drone delivery service. Now I just got to get the drones.
So my only question is, how recently was that chocolate milk milked? Pegleg, is it stuff from 1871, which might
I mean,
fresh.
we did try a vintage chocolate milk service a while back, and people were not very receptive to it, especially these guys who call themselves the USDA. I don't know what that stands for, but they didn't like that one bit, so they said, no, it's got to be fresh. And you got to keep it cold.
Yeah, because you don't want to be delivering smelly chocolate milk.
And
Arturo Medina,
you cannot taste test it yourself before sending it out.
or throwing up.
Because, well, I don't know about that. I mean, it was delicious chocolate milk and perfectly fine when it came out of Bessie.
Arturo Medina shares, and again, I don't want to broad stroke and demonize all USPS postal workers. Unfortunately, I've encountered some of the worst ones here at Northtown Station, as well as the downtown location, where they pulled the same crap and said they couldn't give me a receipt at the counter, the main hub. But Arturo says, I have a niece who works for Postal Service. Their workers are being worked long and hard, but can't save it. And I believe that is the heart of it. That's DeJoy's plan. Get you going private. Here's what they do. They just ask to leave them at the counter and then walk off. So the problem with that, Andrew, is that if you leave your package at the counter and don't get an acceptance receipt and your package doesn't go where it's supposed to go, the first thing they ask you when you file the claim? Did you get a postal receipt from a counter clerk? And if you didn't, you're shit out of luck. But they don't want to give those receipts. They want to make you go leave it in the bin, get the receipt from the machine, so it makes it harder to prove a loss when they drop the ball on their end. Anyway, I do believe I have spent enough time on this story to just kind of drive it home that we've got some serious problems with our postal service infrastructure. And I don't know what's going to change it. Thomas DeJoy's position as the postal inspector, I guess not even the president can get rid of him. I think it's the board of governors at the Postal Service that selects him. So unless the president can coerce the committee at the U.S. Postal Service to get rid of this asshat, he ain't going anywhere. And that's why he's not gone, because it's not an appointed commission by the president. So moving on to our next story, I found this utterly fascinating in light of what we've been seeing with this other asshat, John Catanzara, causing problems or trying to stir up trouble on behalf of the Fraternal Order of Police, encouraging police officers to, I guess, encourage new recruits who are going into City Hall to fill police officer vacancies, taking the test to tell them the city doesn't have your back, so don't apply for the test to put more officers on the street, to replace the ones that are not following the mayor's mandate with vaccines for public workers. So this comes to us from Patch, Mark Conkle, and he reports that the Chicago Police Union is getting a hand from a Madigan machine ward boss. And this ward boss's name is, where is she here? Here we go. 23rd Ward Alderman Silvana Tabares. A little heard of alderwoman handpicked by Madigan has emerged at the center of police union fight to limit the mayor's power. Let's get into Mr. Conkle's report. Fraternal Order of Police President John Catanzara told ward bosses to put their hands up or else during Monday's city council meeting. How about that? This guy is just a complete piece of work. Here's what he said. Now, tell me if this doesn't remind you of gangster thugs from the 1930s. I read this and I think of somebody like Al Capone. We're coming for every one of your damn seats, he warned any alderman who refused to support an ordinance aimed at repealing Mayor Lori Lightfoot's coronavirus vaccine mandate for all city employees. The Big Bad Wolf Act didn't seem to scare anybody in the council chambers. Aldermen did not abide by Catanzara's order for each one of them to immediately raise their hand so he could put their response on a political quote-unquote report card. Anybody who does not raise their hand, you will be challenged in 2023, he said. Ultimately, the proposal to nix the vaccine mandate failed in a 20 to 30 vote, leaving one question. Does the Fraternal Order of Police actually have a political arm of its own capable of making good on Catanzara's threats? And I think that this is what's most disturbing about this story. The Fraternal Order of Police should not exist as a political arm. The Fraternal Order of Police is supposed to represent their membership as public service workers, taking orders from city council and the mayor and the police superintendent, as rules are applied to them. And I've said this before in the past, if they don't like the rules under which they're expected to perform in public service, perhaps they ought to find other jobs. Because this is not, I work according to what I want. Most jobs, wouldn't it be nice if we all had that luxury to work according to what we demanded, as opposed to what our job demands of us? Of course not. The police union doesn't have an overflowing political war chest. Cops mostly have a voting advantage in suburban adjacent wards on the southwest and northwest part of town. There's not much evidence the Fraternal Order of Police has the ability to assert its influence beyond those borders. But do you know who does have access to cash and campaign workers to try and get the job done? Orphaned insiders connected to former House Speaker Michael Madigan's powerful political organization and the deep pockets of City Council's longest-serving ward boss indicted Alderman Eddie Burke. Alderman Silvana Tabares, for instance. Her sudden emergence as an unlikely vaccine mandate freedom fighter seemed to quietly signal that Catanzara's verbal threats to run for mayor and organize to oust ward bosses who defy his demands has a new political sponsor, Friends of Michael Madigan. Tabares, a former journalist, was reared by Madigan's political organization. She was elected as a Southwest Side state representative with Madigan's support and the blessing of Burke, who I'm sure we all know have no roots of corruption linked to their political organizations whatsoever, even though Burke is still under federal investigation and Madigan resigned in disgrace when the feds were zeroing in on him. Former Mayor Rahm Emanuel appointed Tabares to the city council to replace longtime Madigan ally Alderman Michael Zalewski, who retired in 2018, a year before his term expired, and the feds raided his house. So, quite obviously, clearly, we know that former Mayor Rahm Emanuel wouldn't appoint anybody that was as corrupt as the alderman he was replacing. You want to make sure that the public's interests are served, not that of the machine or the political power players who are positioning right now using the pandemic as a way to assert their power and their positions to get more power here in the city. Her campaign war chest hasn't just received about $150,000 donations from political funds controlled by Madigan. Tabares also funneled more than $188,000 back to Madigan-controlled campaign funds, according to public records. Since Madigan resigned from public office, I'm going to bring up Tabares here. Let's see where we are here. There she is. Since Madigan resigned from public office and relinquished control of the state Democratic Party after being identified, but not indicted as the target of the Fed's massive public corruption probe, Tabares has been a politician without Madigan clout or any discernible connection to a city hall voting clique. If you haven't heard of Tabares, it's not your fault. The last time WBEZ reported on ward boss attendance, the news organization found Tabares showed up to only 44% of city council meetings in the months after she took office. During her tenure, Tabares hasn't made any headlines. Until, that is, she became the lead sponsor of the ordinance to not only repeal Lightfoot's vaccine mandate, but also strip the mayor's ability to make any executive orders that would place city workers on a no-pay status. Suddenly, Madigan's hand-picked alderwoman has emerged at the center of a city hall power struggle reminiscent of council wars when a coalition of 29 aldermen, led by Burke and former alderman Eddie Verdoliak, wrestled away power from Chicago's first black mayor, Harold Washington. Burke, himself a former police officer, sided with Tabares' failed ordinance. He also introduced a separate proposal that calls for the city to allow any employee who might be stripped of pay for violating the vaccine mandate to keep medical benefits, a move that, if approved, might inspire additional officers to join in protesting the mayor's citywide mandate. In interviews, Tabares has tried to avoid having her proposed ordinance directly tied to the Fraternal Order of Police's fight against the vaccine mandate. She told WGN's John Williams that the purpose of her ordinance is to ensure a check on executive power. Stripping the mayor of executive power seems closer to the truth. That happens to be exactly what Burke worked so hard to do when Washington was mayor. It's no wonder Catanzara, a proud supporter of former President Donald Trump in a Democratic city, has amped up his political rhetoric with suggestions that he'll run for mayor in 2023 and mount a campaign to oust any alderman who sides with Lightfoot. He's got Burke and a ward boss from the Madigan machine on his side, advocating to slap legislative checks and balances on a Chicago mayor. It feels like 1983 all over again. It certainly does. Now, if you haven't heard about Tabarez and want to know a little bit more about her relationship to Madigan, House Speaker Michael Madigan hit up fellow lawmakers, this is from 2019, for contributions to cover his mounting legal costs. And 23rd Ward Alderman Silvana Tabarez came through to the tune of $57,800 earlier this month. That's a lot of money going back and forth for her to support his legal fund and for him to give her money for her campaign. Over a 2-day span, Friends of Michael Madigan and the 13th Ward Democratic Organization campaign funds controlled by Madigan received $603,000 from 10 state representatives and a Chicago City Council member. So, this stinks. And I think that it's interesting to see the connection between Madigan, Tabarez, Catanzara, and the newly brewing council wars that seem to be percolating. Let's see what some of you think in the live chat. Going down here, let's see here. Yes, Arturo, he is. He reminds me of a corrupt Batman villain in law enforcement, is what he reminds me of. He is reckless. He feels, and apparently he's amassing more power than he should have in how he can direct the Chicago Police Department to serve his political interests as they relate to service and not the citizenry. This is not what the police union is supposed to be engaging in, and it's very, very alarming. Now, I'm not going to broad stroke all of the Chicago Police Department, but you know what? They elected this guy, and it's very, very alarming. Defunding uniform security will just lead to gangs taking over in short order. Yes, the dirty bureau's ops, that's another matter to remove financial support from, is it not? I'm not familiar with the Uniform Security Bureau, but let me move on from that comment. Arturo, I'm starting to see that the next riot that might occur may be the worst the city will ever see. Yeah, because you know what's going to happen? Catanzara seems to be directing the police department, not Superintendent Brown. They're taking orders from Catanzara. That's what we're seeing happen here. The mistrust between police and politicians will make the victims of citizens. Yep. Arturo, Medina, citizens, unsurprisingly, once realizing, don't like to make each other victims. Yep. Catanzara definitely screams sociopath. No argument there. All right, so let me take us into our next story, as this feels more like radio than a broadcast since my camera's out. Again, I apologize to anyone joining us. Apparently, I've got a cable problem with my link between my camera and my laptop. I got to order a new cable quickly before Friday's show so we can come back on with video. But going into our next story, oh, guess who's back in the news? Guess who's, you guys are going to love this. Speaking of gangsters in Chicago, ready? This is great. How about this? You can't write this stuff, everybody. Honestly, I came across this, and actually E. Heller shared it with me also after I saw it earlier today on Block Club Chicago. But get this, and whether his aide had the guns or not, which is bad enough, the guy is still has his job. Let's get to the details. This comes to us from Block Club Chicago. And Ariel, Perella Orelli, and Colin Boyle. Feds seize illegal machine gun from Alderman Jim Gardiner's ward superintendent, and he's still on the job. Charles Sakonich is also being sued by a man who says Sakonich and Gardiner falsely accused him of a crime, harassed him, and had him arrested over a lost cell phone. Alderman Jim Gardiner's ward superintendent had a $15,000 machine gun seized by federal authorities in August, but he's still working for the beleaguered Northwest Side alderman. Charles Sakanich, Gardiner's ward superintendent who oversees sanitation services. He oversees sanitation services. They make things go away. They make things disappear. I wonder if that's why he had the machine gun. And the 45th Ward is under investigation by the local division of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives after federal authorities seized a Steyr machine gun from him August 18th, according to documents released earlier this month. And I'm going to see if I can get an image of what a Steyr machine gun looks like. Because when I see machine gun, I automatically think of stuff from Gangster Times. Yes, Pegleg.
Hey, Jerry, is this an episode of The Sopranos of Cicero Avenue?
It may as well be.
This looks like a good show.
It's an alarming show, Pegleg. Especially after you see the this is the weapon that this asshole had. Here we go. And no, I'm not gonna clean up my language. This is what Gardiner's aide had that the feds took away from him. How's that? What is the guy who oversees
illegal to me?
Doesn't it though? Doesn't it? Not too suspicious. Nothing to see here. Back to the reporting, however. The gun was seized as a penalty for wrongdoing, according to the ATF notice. A spokesperson for the ATF's Chicago office said that the incident is under investigation. The spokesperson confirmed the seizure but would not provide further details. Why is that? Why does this guy get a pass?
Kind of weird. The feds took his gun.
Yeah.
So they know he had one.
Yeah. And it's against the law. It's an illegal weapon.
And he's not behind bars
or
nothing?
Not yet. Under Illinois law, machine guns are illegal and people caught with them could face 3 to 7 years in prison. It helps to have connections, doesn't it, Pegleg?
I suppose it does. I mean, I know that, he didn't use that gun to burn down half a city or nothing, but still, that's pretty serious.
Well, who burned down half a city?
That was not me. I did not do that.
Sentencing guidelines vary, with recommendations between 6 and 30 years if the weapon is found to be loaded or in a vehicle. The Steyr machine gun seized from Sakanich is a selective fire gun that can be configured as a rifle or an automatic weapon. Despite rumors circulating that Sakanich had been suspended, a Freedom of Information Act request officer confirmed he is still on the job. Multiple residents said they've seen Sakanich driving his city truck in the past 2 weeks. Block Club Chicago reached out to Mayor Lori Lightfoot's office for comment, but was referred to the Department of Streets and Sanitation. Jesus Christ. Art. You're right. What was Art's comment from earlier where he said, I got to bring this up again. Where is it? Yeah, about rioting and stuff.
This one?
No, not that one, but that's appropriate too. Here we go. I'm starting to see that the next riot that might occur may be the worst the city will ever see. The mistrust between police and politicians will make victims of citizens. Yeah. Especially when you go to the mayor to find out why this scumbag is still on the job, and they refer you to the Department of Streets and Sanitation. A spokesperson for Streets and San declined to answer questions about. Of course, they declined to answer questions.
Jerry, but the last time I checked, I don't think you need an automatic weapon to do streets and sanitation.
No. But here's the punchline, Pegleg.
I mean, the rats in the city do get pretty big in those alleys, but come on.
Well, the rats are most of our older people, as well as former Mayor Rahm Emanuel. I usually see him run across my alley whenever I pull into my garage. But here's the punchline. Ready, Pegleg? So, a spokesperson for Streets and San declined to answer questions about Sakanich's employment, but said the matter was referred to the Office of Inspector General for investigation. That would be Joe Ferguson, who stepped down last Tuesday. And the mayor, although she knew that Ferguson was stepping down this past July, has not found a replacement for him. There's somebody interim right now serving in that position because they don't actually have it as City Inspector General. Now, Sakanich makes $100,896 as a full-time ward superintendent, according to city data. This isn't the first time Sakanich has been in legal trouble. Sakanich, one or the other. Last year, former Far Northwest Side resident Benjamin George filed a federal lawsuit against Sekanich and Gardiner, alleging the two men inaccurately accused George of a crime, harassed him, and had him arrested over a lost cell phone. This is not the first time Alderman Gardiner has been alleged to be terrorizing his residents and constituents. George found Sekanich's cell phone at a 7-Eleven and planned to return it to the police station at the end of his workday, according to the lawsuit, but Gardiner allegedly instructed Sekanich to report his phone stolen instead of lost. According to the suit, police officers Gardiner and Sekanich separately visited the man's apartment while he was still at work and used disparaging language about George to his roommate, who was his landlord. Yes, Art. This is the and Pegleg. This is the Cicero Sopranos, is what we're dealing with here. Gardiner then instructed Sekanich to have me locked up, George said in a statement to Block Club through his attorney. After I was arrested, I know that Sekanich returned to my home to gloat and then asked my roommate if he knew that he had a gypsy living in his basement. George, who is a Romanian and used to own a construction company on the far northwest side, said he never personally interacted with Sekanich. He thinks the gun seizure is worrisome given Sekanich's past behavior. I would really like to see, maybe they haven't removed him yet because they're still investigating. I really wonder what kind of connections that this guy Sekanich might have with what we call questionable and irreputable parties here in the city of Chicago.
Yeah,
being a gun owner,
that guy probably has a good lawyer.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the city's helping him pay for it too. Being a gun owner should be for responsible people, and Charles Sekanich, by his actions, is obviously not a responsible person, George said. As Sekanich is a city employee, it is embarrassing to the ward and to the people of Chicago for ATF to take his firearm away. The fact that Jim Gardiner hired him and continues to stand by him is absurd and a sad reflection of the office. It doesn't seem anything as a shock anymore where it comes to city council villain Jim Gardiner. Gardiner's office did not respond to requests for comment when reached by phone Monday. Sekanich declined to comment. Of course he did. A streets and sand supervisor who asked for anonymity due to fear of retaliation said he's seen Sekanich on the job recently and is shocked the city has not fired him for having an illegal weapon. The supervisor said Sekanich's alleged actions toward George and the seizure should be red flags for the city to remove him. It's problematic, and it seems like he's getting away with it, the supervisor said. How many of us would still be in our jobs if the feds seized an illegal weapon from us? Pegleg, what do you think?
I'm fairly certain I would have a brand new room with concrete walls on it if that were the case.
Accessorized by steel bars, yeah?
Yes, for certain.
The ATF investigation comes on the heels of a series of allegations against Gardiner, who has been accused of withholding ward services from his critics, using foul language to describe women, and other potential misconduct. The FBI, Board of Ethics, the Circuit Court Clerk's Office, and the Office of the Inspector General have launched investigations into Gardiner's behavior. So, that's the Gardiner update. He can't be removed soon enough, given how reprehensible his choices are and who he surrounds himself with, who he appoints as his aides in his position of leadership. Very problematic leadership of that ward. So, that's it's Chicago town, Art and Pegleg, right? Let's go to the live chat, see some of your comments down here. Let's see. In response to Arturo's comment that I wonder if we still have well, actually, we do have a Chicago mob, Art. It's called the City of Chicago, and they don't use machine guns. They use corporation counsel. Although in Jim Gardiner's aide's case, they do use machine guns. But Andrew Golick says, I wouldn't be a bit surprised. This is for those see something, say something situations that everyone ignores and it ends badly. Yes, we are very, very lucky to have Pegleg to the show. Love Tagore. Pegleg, Love Tagore loves you.
Oh, well, I am happy to receive that love.
Yes, Andrew, and nobody in power is held accountable. At best, they get a slap on the wrist. Yeah, or they fail upward. as we've seen with Rahm Emanuel being appointed the ambassador to Japan after covering up the murder, I like to say the execution, of Laquan McDonald so he could win re-election in 2015. Why do the crooks make more money than anyone? Oh, yeah, because they do criminal activity. Andrew Gollick nails it on the head. It's because the crooks are in powerful places and or have powerful connections. I was listening to a Breaking Points broadcast with Crystal Ball and Sagar on YouTube the other day where they were commenting on the rank corruption of our congresspeople regarding insider trading. And it's just so clear. We're so used to our politicians and our representatives, and I'm not going to call them our leaders because they're not our leaders. They're supposed to represent us. We're so used to the corruption, we're numb to it. It's just part of what we expect. We see it here in Chicago. We see it on the national scene. Let's see here. Any more comments here? Every political figure in the city is a potential villain against the people or an ally to the corruption. Yep. And you know what I like to say, Arturo? If only I had two good legs, there might be a Batman in this city trying to clean things up, as insane as that is, or ill-advised. But I can dream, can't I? Let's see here. More comments in the chat. Oh, arrived late. So Trish Taylor, since you arrived late, we are doing, we don't have video running because I've got a problem with my camera cable. So to anybody arriving late to the broadcast, the reason I'm broadcasting this way is because I got to get a replacement camera cable. It went out right at the top of the show. I was a frozen still frame. So hopefully we will have that resolved by Friday's special Halloween show.
Yeah, if not, I may have to host the show again.
You might. The ghost of Pegleg might. And the ghost of Pegleg may or may not actually physically manifest. I think we're going to hold a seance to see if we can get Pegleg on camera to participate in the show.
Like fun.
You up for that?
I'm in. I'm game if you are. I'm willing to give it a try.
All right. So coming up next, our next story. So I have to provide some historical context here before I report on the update.
Oh, Jerry, before you start that, though, I think somebody was asking earlier why they weren't able to see your mug, and we know it's because your camera's broken, but
that's why.
Check this thing out.
How about that?
Oh, it's the brand new flavor improving Chicago Corner mug that is available at the merch shop right now. I think there's a link in the description below.
There is. We have a Redbubble store, and I want to thank E. Heller for getting all our swag together to offer here to help support the channel.
Yeah, that guy's pretty talented with things.
He's very talented. That guy is a treasure, and I think he is a sometimes underappreciated treasure, but I appreciate him, and I want him to know that if he's moderating tonight.
Oh, well, if I see him, I'll let him know.
All right. Let's go to our next story, and we do have some video here, so at least you will not just see the two disembodied heads with the voices. Now, this happened. I'm going to be giving an update to this story. This happened September 22nd. Let's just run the video so we've got something to actually watch together.
A community activist arrested as he protested what he calls the city of Chicago's inaction after the murders of two teenagers from the same high school just hours apart. NBC5's Natalie Martinez joins us now live at City Hall with what she's found out. Natalie.
Allison, CPS says, without naming students, we are devastated to learn of the loss of another student. Meanwhile, violence, many say, has reached pandemic proportions here in the city of Chicago. Tonight, what some are doing about it. Some chaos on the 5th floor of City Hall today. Activist Jamal Green, fed up with the Chicago violence, was...
I also want to parse that. Friend of the show, Jamal Green. And I'm going to guess some people might think he went too far here. I don't think he did. I don't think activism is pretty. I think it does get ugly, and I think it needs to get ugly to get attention. And that's where we're going to update the story after we run the rest of this news segment.
arrested as he took his concerns straight to the mayor's office. Green, a critic of Mayor Lori Lightfoot, calmly left in handcuffs and was taken away in a police car.
It's pretty hard to take in, but I just gotta tough it out.
This is a group of students and loved ones who knew 15-year-old Jamari Williams set up balloons and cards at a park at 65th and Racine.
I know Jamari looking down and was like, dang, y'all really came out for me.
Jamari was shot and killed in a drive-by Tuesday outside a strip mall around the corner from Simeon Career Academy, just to school it out. Daryl Smith says he coached Jamari here at Ogden Park.
It's a shame that life was taken at a young age. Far too familiar.
In fact, just 4 hours later, Kentrell McNeil, a Simeon freshman who just turned 15, was shot in the head and later died. He was sitting in a car with a 14-year-old friend who was shot in the leg and lived.
I guess I'm just at a loss for words.
Kentrell was a member of the basketball team and the nonprofit Good Kids Mad City.
This is horrible.
Like a big brother to a lot of boys on the team, mentor, funny kid.
It just brought back memories of 2019 when my daughter was murdered, a Simeon cheerleader. Something has to give.
Students tell us criminals have no boundaries, not even at school.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Jamal Green tells me he's just been released, that he was arrested along with another supporter for disorderly conduct and failure to disperse. Meanwhile, tonight, Father Flager at St. Sabina says he's offering $5,000 reward to anyone who can give information leading to the shooter's arrest. At City Hall, Natalie Martinez, NBC 5 News.
So Jamal Green, according to the article, also offered a reward for information in the shooting death of Jamari Williams just blocks from the school, and was arrested at Chicago City Hall on Wednesday. He was at the building to protest what he calls inaction on the part of officials and lawmakers in the wake of the deaths of Williams and Kentrell McNeil on Tuesday. As we saw in the report, Green was arrested on charges of disorderly conduct and failure to disperse, both of which are misdemeanors. So, quite naturally, what does Mayor Lightfoot do? Mayor Lightfoot has decided.
She sues him.
Yep. She's decided to pursue criminal charges against Jamal Green for disorderly conduct after he went to her office to protest the killings of children. Next court date is December 2nd. How about that? How about, so we've got Catanzara on one side who wants to usher in a new wave of fascism into the city of Chicago. And then we've got a corporate tool, Mayor Lightfoot, who is trying to be tough like Rahm Emanuel, but can't, decide that instead of working with activists across the city to improve things and perhaps curry good favor with the citizens and residents in these underserved communities, she's going to pursue criminal charges against him. I can't help but imagine that Lightfoot recognizes the threat Jamal Green is to her as far as exposing how completely spineless and inept she is in actually acting as a leader and representative of our city. So Joyce Lynn on Twitter, who's a journalist, says, does the Chicago mayor know about the First Amendment? Apparently not. Now, another update from Jamal that came after that was this. We've reached 700 homicides in Chicago, and the mayor has decided to press charges on me because I used a megaphone and protested her lack of a plan after 2 teens were killed the same day. They can't even solve murders, but she spends money pursuing me for a petty misdemeanor.
He's right. Super petty, that is.
Yep. Yeah. Lightfoot was like this before Biden was in office, and if she sees more terms, she'll be like this after. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm reading some of the tweets there. That's not the mayor spending the money. How can you run for mayor if you don't understand how city government works? Someone said to Jamal. Okay, so maybe it's not, it is spending the money. It's spending the resources. It is directing the resources in a direction that actually does cost the city, and definitely shows her lack of priorities in actually addressing the root causes of the problems that these communities are facing. What do our friends in the live chat have to share? It's sickening to think of all the brains on the south side of Chicago destroyed by bullets over really stupid conflict issues. Yeah, it's true, Turkey Day. Andrew Golick, what the F is wrong with Lightfoot? I would counter what the F is right with Lightfoot. Yeah, love Tagore. Criminalizing an activist really solves the problem. That sounds like how things were when I grew up. Ignore the bullies, punish everyone who stands up against the bullies. Right? Exactly. Oh, Jesus H. Tap dancing Christ. You have anything to offer, Pegleg?
Oh, well, I mean, Chicago has a long history of really terrible mayors. We go back to, we had, what was his name? That Medill guy, Joseph Medill. That was back, that was right before and after the fire, which I did not cause. Mayor Medill tried to close bars on Sundays, so you couldn't get a drink on Sundays. That's above and beyond the pale. I mean, it's not like this violence we got today, but it's just one small tiny example of the bad decisions that mayors of Chicago have been making for decades. No, not decades, hundreds of years.
And you know the morality crusaders are the ones with the worst skeletons in their closets, don't you?
Well, I don't know about skeletons, but there's definitely some ghosts in a lot of those closets.
Arturo says when Lightfoot overreacts this way, it means she really does. Yeah, and that's scary. That's scary when she can be intimidated by a clown like Catanzara in city council. And instead of deciding how to work with Jamal Green, she treats him as if he's some kind of a threat because he's shedding light on all the bullshit that she's unable or unwilling to address. Yeah.
It's like Bessie tells me. It's like you should not be reactionary to everything. You should try to be proactive. You try to find the causes of the things that are going wrong instead of reacting to what is happening because of those things going wrong.
We've talked about that on the show until we were blue in the face, and you would have seen that if maybe you would see that now if my video were working, but we'll have to wait till Friday when I get my cable fixed on my camera.
Jerry, I heard that we were getting these relief funds, but somebody told me they spent them all on police. They didn't give them to the people who needed the money.
Well, that's what happened last year. They covered, but what did they? Police overtime. I think if I'm recalling correctly, don't quote me, but I'm going to guess it was around 70% of the federal COVID release funds went to police overtime.
That's
a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And these clowns
that didn't need to go.
Yeah, and then these clowns have the audacity to step forward and say, "Hey, we're the Fraternal Order Police. We make the rules, not the mayor. It's not enough that you pay all these lawsuits, and we don't have to carry liability insurance as we violate citizens' rights. We call the shots, no pun intended." All right, so enough of this. I mean, it's just another day in Chicago. Let's go to our last story, which, of course, is our feel-good story of the night. I like to close each show with a feel-good story. A lot of great Halloween stuff coming up this weekend. I would encourage everybody to go to blockclubchicago.org. They've got, there was so much stuff that was going on, I couldn't pick and choose to share here. Maybe I'll go through some events Friday night on the Halloween show. But I did come across this, and I found it interesting. This is an article that comes to us from Patch staff, Eileen O'Gorman. The Illinois' most searched Halloween costumes on Google. Halloween 2021 is just days away. Will we see an abundance of witches or Harley Quinns this year? Here's what Google Trends has to say. Halloween parties in Illinois are likely to make a big comeback this year, and just like any other special occasion, you may not want to show up wearing the same outfit as 15 of your friends. Don't worry, Google has you covered. Each year, Google uses trillions of searches and a trove of data to help Chicago area residents pick out the perfect Halloween costume. Finding it, or knowing which costumes to avoid, is as easy as visiting Frightgeist, the tech company's website showcasing the most searched Halloween costumes nationwide and in every state, according to Google Trends. Curious about which costumes Illinois residents are eyeing? Here's a look at the most searched costumes according to the city. Now, the top costume around Chicago, and I can attest to this because this is my little nephew, Alexander. Spider-Man.
Ooh, you got lots of options for Spider-Man too.
Yeah, we do. We've got the Peter Parker Spider-Man. We've got the Miles Morales Spider-Man. We've got the Iron Spider-Man from the Avengers movies. But I recall when I was a kid, when I was my nephew Alexander's age, and he's now 6 or 7. Forgive me. I can't keep track. The years are passing so fast. But I remember when I was younger, I don't know if you remember these, Peg Leg, but we had Ben Cooper costumes. Do you remember those?
Uncle Ben? Spider-Man's Uncle Ben?
No, not that Uncle Ben.
Oh, wait, that'd be Ben Parker.
Yeah, Ben Parker. Ben Cooper was a costume company, and they made these vinyl costumes with these plastic, I want to say they were vacuum-formed masks, and everybody wore Ben Cooper costumes. At the time when we were kids, they were the coolest things to get because you could go to Turnstile or Venture. Those were the Walmarts and the Targets of the day, and go into the costume section and just see boxes and boxes of Ben Cooper costumes. And they were all the rage. And it's funny because I look at pictures of myself in the 70s wearing a Ben Cooper costume and looking at as much, when you're a kid, you're impressionable and think it's the cool thing. But in reality, as charming and nostalgic as the Ben Cooper costumes were, they were uncomfortable. You'd get really, really hot. The elastic strap around your ear would, be really uncomfortable. And as the years have progressed, more comfortable costumes that are actually fabric with latex masks that have become more affordable have become more the rage. Or you can always source and put your own cool costumes together, depending on what age you are. But I always look at there's a bit of nostalgia though, looking back on costumes of the 1970s and 60s when that's pretty much what everybody had to go to in retail if they didn't have parents who were willing to put in the time at home to make something really special for them. I remember I went as Bingo from the Banana Splits one year in a Ben Cooper costume. All right, well, let's go back to the top picks, though. So top costume around Chicago is Spider-Man. Top costume around Rockford is Baby Yoda, whose real name is Grogu from The Mandalorian, as it was revealed at the end of season 2. And I highly
so that's what Bessie has been saying. She wanted to go as Grogu for Halloween, and I was like, "What are you talking about? What's a Grogu?"
Grogu was the baby of the same species as Yoda from The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, and I can't recommend that show enough. Great series. Really captures the spirit of the original Star Wars films. So, top costume around Peoria. Interesting, because this is like a throwback to like the 1950s. Cowboy. And the top costume.
Cowboy?
What's a cowboy? Right? Yeah, exactly. I didn't even know that they around Peoria. I guess they must have more rural farming communities, perhaps agricultural.
Wow.
Yeah, Bessie would know.
I'm a cowboy. That can't be right.
And the top costume.
Bessie says I'm a cowboy. I don't know where she gets that from.
You're not a cowboy. You're a miscreant.
I'm a cowman.
Cowman. And the top costume around Champaign is Minnie Mouse. I didn't even know kids knew who Mickey or Minnie Mouse were these days, given how Disney has pretty much retooled itself to be the house of Star Wars and Marvel. But there you have it. These costumes.
Well, before they went and became like the streaming dynamo, they had the Disney Channel. And so kids know about Minnie Mouse.
Yeah, but I think over the past 5 years or so, where younger kids are watching Disney, you're probably right if she's a contender around.
But
Champaign.
honestly, I don't know why they wouldn't go for Goofy or Pluto.
I like Arturo's thinking. What if everyone dressed like Chicago cops just to confuse the real cops?
Well, maybe the mayor would be happier because she'd think that she had more available.
Yeah, that's possible. These costume picks are strikingly different from the top choices of 2020. Last year, Illinois residents were most interested in portraying a dinosaur, witch, angel, devil, and bear. Nationally, which is the most searched Halloween costume according to Google's list. And it goes on to say, whoops, just lost the article. Here's a look at the top 10 costume searches nationally for 2021. Witch, rabbit, dinosaur, Spider-Man, Cruella de Vil, fairy, Harley Quinn, cowboy, clown, and Chucky.
That evil possessed doll thing?
Yeah, that Chucky
Ooh.
scares kids.
Yeah, he's pretty scary.
My other nephew, Alec, when he was younger, he's now 1 year out from going to college. But I recall when he was younger, he'd see pictures of Chucky and just completely freak out. And I don't blame him. Chucky's a pretty scary character. The full list of 2021's top Halloween costume searches can be found at frightgeist.withoutgoogle.com. To see which costumes are a bit more niche this year, click on the costume you like, and Google will show you a less popular choice within the same category. So, yeah, that's the latest on this year's Halloween costumes. Although, let's see if I can find something I posted on my Facebook today in regard to Halloween. There we go. Got to find the images to drop on the screen here. So I came across this on Twitter. Love it. What's one suit in your wardrobe that you couldn't do without? How about you, Pegleg? What's one suit in your wardrobe that you couldn't do without?
What's a suit?
Here's mine if I can find somewhere to go on Saturday night. Yes.
That's pretty nifty suit.
It's my favorite suit. That's the suit I can't do without. Anyway, Pegleg, I want to thank you tremendous. Oh, wait, let's go back to the live chat and see some of the comments there. Love Tagore. I want to be a French Mexican superhero disguised as a hot dog. Go for it. And share some pictures on social media so we can share it. Here's something. Want to imagine something radical? What if parents dressed their children in red bloodstained clothes and marched the street to show their children becoming victims of violent Chicago streets? That's pretty radical, Art. But it's not a bad idea. I think that would really send a message home, given what we're seeing here in Chicago these days.
Oh, hey, Jerry, we should give them a little preview of what's coming up on Friday.
I don't have any preview prepared. Do you?
Oh, well, I can show one little thing that I've been working on. You know, right. Bessie made me pick up a pumpkin because she wanted me to make this. Take a look.
Isn't
that fantastic? It's my chocolate milk-o'-lantern.
That had to take some time to carve.
Oh, well, I had a little bit of time to kill, but a little bit of time to carve.
Along with all the residents in Chicago back in 1871.
I did not do anything even close to what you are perpetrating that I might have done 150 years ago. But I did do this with one of those pumpkin carver knife thingies that they have.
Well,
it is, and then it's got my my Sullivan brand chocolate milk on there.
Love Tagore is saying, "Don't you dare light the candle in the pumpkin."
Oh yeah, that's probably not a good idea to let me have matches anymore.
That's why
I'm just saying.
That's why we have our guests in the live chat. You know what?
That's a good call.
Before we go off the air, I'm going to do something here just to let you guys all know and see. I know you must be missing Oreo tonight, yeah? So let me see if I can pull this picture up to just let you all see Oreo's participation in the show tonight. Of course, I have to text it to myself first, and then I will drag it into the window. So, everybody, on behalf of myself and Pegleg and little Oreo, I want to thank you all for being patient with us tonight as we had these technical That's Oreo right now. That's him on my desk as I've been doing the show for the past hour, and you can see my camera set up and how it's sitting there in the corner there.
Yeah, I don't know, Jerry. He looks like he's been chewing on some cords around.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe he did something to the cable that was going into the camera.
He's like,
I don't know.
Hey, remember me? I'm the guy that chewed on your cords today, so you had to think on your feet.
Yeah, pretty much. He is. Oreo's the reason we have a floating cherry head. So anyway, listen, thanks for everybody for hanging out despite the fact we had the video problems. We're able to get through the show and at least have some graphics up as we were talking about all these stories. I'm really looking forward to our Friday night Halloween show. We're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of guests talking about local Chicago paranormal activities and hauntings, legendary hauntings around the city.
And I will get to tell my story.
Yes, and Pegleg will be back to repeat his story for the umpteenth time and how he did not set the fire that burned down half of Chicago and led to all of the victims being buried in Streeterville and now Lincoln Park, where there are a lot of rumors of hauntings in the Lincoln Park area. Remember, if you haven't subscribed yet to the show, you can do so below. Of course, I can't point, but we've got our show notes and links to our merch and our social media feeds in the description. Please have a good week till we return on Friday. Again, Pegleg, thanks for joining me tonight. And remember, everybody, if it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Have a safe week.
And if it's from a chocolate milk cow, it came from Bessie.
You're making me really thirsty for chocolate milk. I think I'm going to have to go to McDonald's and get a shake or something.
That's probably a good move, Jerry.
Hey, everybody in the live chat. I love you all. We love you all. And we will see you all on Friday. So please be safe. Have a good week. Night, everybody.